All right, well, we're going to start. If you have any questions that you would like to ask, for the next 3 weeks, we're going to be looking at end of financial year preparation. So sometimes the questions will come after you've listened to something and then you go, oh, actually, I don't know. There's one thing I don't understand. So that will happen, and that's fine. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this place here. I'm on Turrbal and Yagara country. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of where you are all located here in Queensland or elsewhere in Australia, and acknowledge the unceded sovereignty of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples across Australia and the Torres Strait. We also should acknowledge, I'm very grateful to acknowledge and happy to acknowledge the assistance of TAFE Queensland and Advance Queensland in delivering this program to Queensland Indigenous business sector. So tonight we're looking at end of financial year preparation. Many of you know, if you have done my training, you know that finances is not my thing. I find it complicated. I understand it in principle, but I don't have that characteristic that makes me put this pile of receipts into anywhere meaningful in good time. They will sit there for a while, they'll start fading, and then maybe I'll get to it. I wish I was a different type of person, but I'm not. That's just how I am. But people like Andrea, who is our guest today, is definitely like that. I'm going to stop my share and I'm going to let her share her slides.
Sure.
And Andrea is going to give us some amazing tips for how to prepare for the end of the financial year, which is in 23 days.
Yes.
End of financial year.
Can you believe we're in June already? Thank you everyone for joining today. So as Lisa was mentioning, this is where I can come in and hopefully help you prepare for the end of financial year. As I said before, can you believe we're in June?
No.
Yeah, no. Sometimes it feels like the year has gone so quick. We blink and we're already halfway through the year. But hopefully in tonight's session, or if you're watching the video, you can get some tips on how to prepare for the end of financial year. As Lisa said, we do encourage as many questions as possible so that we can, clarify anything that you want to understand or you want to learn with preparing for the end of financial year. So for those who haven't joined the previous sessions, so my name's Andrea. I work at Deadly Digits. And I'm one of the trainers here at Deadly Digits, which is the Australian-based accounting software for those who haven't heard of Deadly Digits before. Okay, so just a bit of the serious stuff here. I'll get out of the way. So just a disclaimer, the contents of this session is basically just of general nature and for guidance. So we don't provide professional advice. If you do need to consult with a professional advisor, you can do so with your specific circumstances. Sounds so serious, but really, we really want to help you today. So let's keep going. So in this session, well, basically, I wanted to go through some, I guess, key points on how to get ready for the end of financial year, especially for your small business. I'll go through a particular end of financial year checklist and just pretty much elaborate on what they all mean. And because we are wrapping for the end of financial year, it's also knowing what to plan for the next financial year, which is for 2021-2022. And finally, we'll go through some what we call myth busting time for some Q&A. So for any questions that you may have regarding end of financial year or anything to do with Deadly Digits or just anything we speak about in this session. Alrighty, so the key takeaways, I guess, I just wanted to put this in the beginning just to make sure that, I guess is for preparing for the whole financial year, these are the key takeaways or points that I want you to make sure that you remember or take away with you from this session. So I guess the key messages is getting your financial books in order, So what that basically means is having all your financial transactions all organized, all reconciled. And what reconciled means is just double checking everything, each transaction for money going into your business as well as money going out. So that you can keep track of all your expenses, but also anyone who owes you money, so all your customers and so forth. It's also reviewing the GST and PYG withholding. So PYG withholding is basically pay as you go. That's if you have any staff that you've hired or that you pay. Just ensuring that all those, I guess, tax purposes are all up to date, or financial records are up to date for that particular scenario. Yes, Lisa.
So I had a question from, or it was more of a comment.
Yeah.
From a participant today this week.
Yeah.
We were chatting about her situation, and she said, "Oh." I said, "Oh, so are you registered for GST?" Because she wasn't sure what she needed to do for the end of the financial year. I said, "Oh, you're registered for GST?" She goes, "No, I can't afford it yet." And I was like, "Okay, well, you don't need to be registered for GST until you think you're going to earn over $70,000. And she said, "I can't afford to change it over." But my understanding is, Andrea, that you don't have to pay to change over your GST status.
That's right, exactly right. So there's no cost to register for GST, or if you need to change it over. It's just a matter of notifying the ATO, I guess, in terms of your registration.
When I first started in business, when GST first came in, oh gosh, I can't even remember how long ago that was now. Oh my goodness. Well, and I didn't realise, and I should have, but I just got a copy of someone else's invoice, which is what you do sometimes when you're in business. You just go, "Oh, okay, so that's what you do." So I got a copy of an invoice from somebody else, and they had GST on it. So I put GST on mine. I was like, "Oh yeah, GST." So here I was collecting GST. I wasn't even registered for it.
Oh,
so then they had to go. Then my accountant was like, "You weren't registered for GST. You didn't have to register, but you weren't earning enough." I'm like, "Oh, okay, sorry."
Oh.
And then I had to. I don't know. There's all this kerfuffle, and I think I paid things back, and some people paid me back. I can't remember what she did. But I didn't know. I didn't realise. I wasn't very bright. I had too many babies, so I just was confused. Spent a decade confused. But yeah, that was funny. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. That's a good one. Oh, that's too good. But yes, just to confirm, yeah, as Lisa said, you don't need to pay for GST, for registering GST.
I said to her, and then she asked me, "Why you stop that? There's no use to the mobile. Why you allow that?"
Oh.
Unmuted. I've just muted.
Okay, that's all right. Mum's new iPad.
So if you've just joined us, I put you on mute until, if you want to say something, just turn your camera on and put your hand up, and Andrea will answer.
Yeah, I'll try to answer mum things. I am a new mum, so I'll try. Okay, so moving on from this session. So the second key point is so once you get your paperwork, I guess, organized or in order. So paperwork doesn't generally just mean physical paper. I'm also talking about online paper, or like digital form or digital software that you may use. It's just having that all in order. And then you can also get help from your accountant and bookkeeper, so that they can help you with your tax return, as well as your BAS lodgements, if they do help you with your BAS lodgements, and then also helping you with the next financial year as well. So they can help you with your tax planning strategies as well. And then the last, I guess, key takeaway, I just want to make sure that I highlight in this session. So I guess this is just more about what process you have in place throughout the year. If you are more thorough and you're more organized and keeping on top of your accounts throughout the year, it is actually quite less stressful when it comes to end of financial year. You actually probably will feel more organized and more streamlined when it comes to 30th of June, because you have everything in order and ready to go. Yes, so moving on to the next part is the end of financial year checklist. So before 30th of June, it's just making sure that you comply with the Australian Taxation Office requirements. So ensuring that you file your income tax return. So that's calculating your profit and loss for the year. I guess some key reports that you may need to generate will be profit and loss report and the balance sheet. You can generate these generally through your accounting software, like cloud accounting software. If you're not too sure where to find this, please ask us where you can find this, and we'll guide you as much as possible. Other ATO requirements is also completing and submitting all your BAS lodgements for the year. So, so that's your business activity statements. I do have a screenshot in the next few slides of the key BAS lodgement due dates. So just keeping on top of your BAS. And as I mentioned before, if you do have staff, just reconciling your PYG withholding payment summary. It's also just reviewing your financial software. So if you use a particular accounting software to, I guess, generate or keep track of your financial transactions, it's just making sure that you keep it in order. You also need to reconcile your accounts. So what this means is looking at your bank accounts or investment accounts if you have any. It's checking customers who may have large outstanding amounts to pay to yourself. And that also means whether you may need to write off any bad debts. So just to explain what bad debt means, it's not that bad, but just to explain, it basically means if customers still are owing you money, but they managed to not pay it in time, or they didn't pay it in time, then that's basically writing it off as a bad debt. Other things to remember for the end of financial year. So if you do pay staff, it's just reconciling your payroll. So the payroll tax, any outstanding leave that your staff may have, as well as paying their superannuation. And then finally, also reviewing your stock. So if you've got inventory, you may need to check if you need to clear out any obsolete stock. And as I mentioned before, so if you are lodging your BAS or making sure that you keep on top of your lodging your BAS, these are the key due dates, especially if you're lodging them quarterly, which is generally what most small businesses do, especially in the first or second year. So just ensuring that you are on top of the due dates. If you think that you're going to be late with the BAS, lodging your BAS, make sure you notify the ATO that you need an extension, but also I don't know if you need to go through a BAS agent as well, just to check if they need if you need help with that. Okay, so planning for the year ahead, 2021 to 2022. Okay, so once you've wrapped up for the year, sorry, my husband's just, yeah, he's just all right. Okay, so so planning for 2021, 2022. So it's listing your visions or goals for 2021, 22. She needs a cuddle. Sorry, guys. So it's reflecting on what has worked well or what didn't work well for the last financial year. Again, it's just a reflection of what you enjoyed or what you didn't enjoy about your business. Also, what's your goals or the budgets for 21 or 2022 and beyond as well. Other things to consider is reviewing your price or your fees that you charge for your business. And then also preparing your budget for 21 and 2022. So tax planning strategy. So this is something that you may discuss with your accountant. So what we normally say is paying tax isn't necessarily a bad thing because you're actually making money in your business, but it also means that you want to try and minimize the, I guess, expenses for your business as well, because, you know, no one wants to pay a large tax bill, right? So tax planning is basically, just to explain, it's structuring your finances to reduce the amount of tax that you pay. So it's focused on reducing your taxable income. So whether that means reducing your income or increasing your expenses. So some examples of tax strategies that an accountant may suggest is paying your superannuation guarantee if you do have staff to obtain tax deductions, reviewing your accounts receivables and writing off any bad debts, and then also reviewing stock on hand and also writing off slow moving stock as well. In terms of, I guess, when I said that it means, yes, Lisa, sorry.
Slow moving stock.
Yeah.
So one of the things, and I don't know if this is accurate, so don't anybody hold me to this, but a few years ago we had, we produced a set of books for because we were doing educational resources, and they haven't sold. It's been a few years, and I'm pretty sure, so you should talk to your accountant about this if you have unsold stock. I'm pretty sure our accountant said we can write it off as we can do something with it. I don't just destroy it. I actually go, okay, this is now no longer sold. So I'm not sure what that word, I don't know what the words are, but write it off.
Yeah.
Is what he was talking about.
So write off the slow moving stock.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But then it becomes it's not an expense though, is it?
No, it's not an expense. I think they just, it's almost like a deduction.
Yeah.
When they're, I guess, assessing the taxable income.
Yeah.
Cool. So in terms of, I guess when we spoke about, or when I spoke about, you know, reducing your, I guess, taxable income, but also means deductions. So it's knowing what your deductions you're entitled to for your business. So I guess in a nutshell, business deductions or expenses must be for business use, which is a bit of a no-brainer. But if it is mixed, personal and business, you can only claim a portion of it. But you also must have records to prove it. So I thought a useful website is the ATO on this link here. We can also email it to you as well, but it shows a list of all the things that that you may be entitled to for deductions. It really depends on the nature of your business as well. So say, for example, you do have a home-based business, then you may be able to I guess deduct things on, like, say, laptop or a portion of the rent and so forth. But it really depends on the nature of your business as well. But also you can do, I guess you can claim stuff on your motor vehicle, business travel, salaries and wages, and then repairs and maintenances as well. Okay, so that's basically end of financial year in a nutshell. So we do have a really useful resource on the Deadly Digits website. We do have the Small Business Hub, and it does have things that we discuss in this section. So we do have the end of financial year checklist. It also summarizes what tax deductions that you can have as a small business, and all types of resources for small businesses as well. So in a nutshell as well, this is basically what the Deadly Digits solution looks like for accounting software, which is basically all based online. So if you have any questions regarding Deadly Digits, I'm more than also happy to answer any questions that you may have. And now it's time for Q&A. Oh no, I can't hear you. Oh yeah, there we go.
Okay, so that's the basic, the Q&A. So we do have some questions. I'll start from the top. So
Sure.
This is a question from Kevin. So how important important is splitting the, I have an answer. I think I've got an answer, but
Okay.
you do this one first.
Sure.
Splitting the expenses into categories when it comes to finances. Is it important for taxes or for accountants? Sometimes bookkeepers split up expenses into too many categories, but on the road doing markets, he's tired from the market and forgets which expense categories, and he rams it in the incorrect category. Does that matter to the ATO?
So to answer Kevin's question, so that is, it is important to categorize and split up the expenses, but it sounds like the bookkeeper that they had experience with may have, maybe went into too much detail. Like you can keep it very, very simple, depending on, I guess, what would you find easy to categorize the expense into, and what's easy for you to understand as a business owner. In terms of if it matters to the ATO, it's mainly if it's, I guess, more, they look at more of the tax portion of the expense rather than in general, or I think they also look at any, I guess, deductions as well.
Because I think that they'd be going, you're buying, it'd also be for things like, from the ATO's perspective, are you a legitimate business? You're buying all this stock, but you're not recording any income. So you've got all these expenses, like how are you paying for this stock if you're not getting any, like if there are things that look like you must be playing silly buggers and you're not declaring all of your income, I think that's when they'll start going, okay, but how come you bought, it's like for us, we make t-shirts. We're paying all this money out to our t-shirt printer, but we're not selling any, but we keep printing stuff, but we don't sell any because we're keeping the cash for it when we sell it at markets. The ATO are going to go, hey, what are you doing? Like, you need to be kind of legitimate about that. I think or we just really keep wearing them, or they keep breaking or something. But the other thing is Kevin, for Kevin, you want to, I think Angie's right, you should be making your expense categories relevant for your context, for your business. But also knowing what those expenses are should give you an idea of how well your business is doing.
That's right.
So it's not necessarily just for the accountants, which is it important for taxes or for accountants? Is it important for a business owner? How do you know which stock, how do you know where you're making your profits, on which products are profitable and which aren't? How can you make those decisions? And I'm going to really go into, soaps, because Kevin does, he does botanicals, he does creams and soaps from a native plant. So, how do you know which one is profitable if you're not really getting the right information? So that's probably how I'd respond to him, Tiari.
Good. Yeah, exactly.
So Natasha's asked, will there be Deadly Digits how-to videos? She's been calling up the helpline and they're deadly, but she wants to be able to show her son, who's also her junior admin.
Yes, so there will be how-to videos. They're still in the process of being made. But if there's any particular questions that you have, I can put my email address in this chat. And then if there's anything that you want to be trained on particularly, I'm happy to show them as well. I think we've only got like a few how-to videos, but we are building out that content at the moment.
Yeah. And Tiari, did Natasha say how old her son is? Can he join one business and just join in and
Yeah. So he's 17 turning 18. So and he works at McDonald's, so he kind of gets the whole flow of the thing. So now her thing is like creating invoices from the templates and stuff like that. So they're literally on the phone and while she's asking them questions. So I put it here and put it there. So she wants to be able to just be a lot more fluent. And both her and Kevin use Square. So trying to merge that in, because Square creates their own invoice. They've made hand invoices. So now they've got too many invoice templates. So she's trying to streamline it. So that's why she wants to have some how-to videos. It's mainly like quotes and invoices and stuff like that.
Okay. definitely. We can definitely build up something, a how-to video for that.
Tiara, do you just want to ask your question?
I know, on mute.
You're on mute.
There we go.
Okay, so some of us have rebranded. I went from a sole trader to a micro family business, only because
Your
everybody
company?
wants to know what I'm doing. We're a family partnership, so that's what.
So you're a partnership.
Yeah, family partnership. So, and I had bought a whole lot of stuff that I use on the road and stuff. I don't use it anywhere else but for work. How do I discern that in my carryover expenses or carryover, or do I just put in the tax for that business? Because it's only in February. So taxes for that business, and then restart the books for the new business. Same thing. I didn't change a thing except for the name of the business and the structure of the business.
Oh, so everything's the same. It's just the rebranding.
Yeah, the services are exactly the same and stuff.
Okay, I'd probably just keep the same bank account, but in terms of, I guess, for the tax, just declaring the ones on the old business and then starting new on the new business.
Because in the Deadly Digits, I actually had to create a brand new profile so there's two separate businesses on the Deadly Digits profile.
Is it two different ABNs?
No.
Or is it the same? No.
It's the same. Yeah. Oh, no, two separate ABNs because of the restructure.
I see. Yeah.
So I've got the two profiles. So I haven't worked out how to write off the old business and then transfer all the costs because my new business is kind of buying it off my old business kind of thing.
I see what you're saying.
Because all the insurance has to be in the new ABN.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I carry all this stuff with me. It's worth this much. And they said, well, it's not in the ABN. So we can't cover it. So I was like, so how do I show that in the books and those kind of things?
In the books. Yeah, I guess it's just in terms of carrying it over in the software, it's just more if you've got two separate books, it's more just carrying over the closing balance over to the new book. But in terms of showing it, you'll have to show, I guess, both and explain that this is what it was registered under, the old ABN, and this is the new ABN, and this is what needs to be done for that new business.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
That's all right.
Any other questions? Oh, Claude's got one. So the Small Business Hub, can anybody join or only members?
Oh, anyone can join. I can actually just send the link. It's just the link on the Deadly Digits website, which is really handy. Where are we? Resources, here we go. I'll just share it on the chat now.
I'm just going to say, hello, Dibby Creations. I've not met you before. Hello. Here we go. Another one from Claude. What is the best way to monitor income to know when to register for GST? Good question.
Good question. So the best way to monitor income is just using a software that will track everything that will come into your business, so that at least when you know when to register for GST.
So if you don't know until May, you're like, we're going to go over the 75. I need to register. What do you do about all the previous invoices?
That's a good question. I think you have to. I'm actually not too sure with that question.
Okay. We'll take that one on notice.
Yeah.
We'll take that one on notice.
Woo.
A hairy one. Which is one of the reasons why, and I guess, Emma always used, when she set up her business, she used to tell this story all the time.
Yeah.
Registered for GST. I think in the first year she made like $17,000 or something, like nothing. But she registered for GST once because she only wanted to have to do it once. She said to herself, well, if I'm going to be a business and one day I will earn over 75, I won't be there for 5 years, but I'm going to register for GST now, so I only have to learn the process once. So if you're not yet registered for GST and you don't need to be, you might want to think about in 3 weeks' time, okay, I'm going to register for GST from the 1st of July, 2021, 2022. So that you only have to then do it once. And if you feel like you're getting close to that, I mean, that's a great question, Claudia.
Yeah, that's a very good question.
If you're almost there, it's probably time to register for the next financial year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so I had a question. I had another question. So be thinking of your questions, folks. But
yeah,
I really liked in your planning for 2021-22.
Yeah.
You've got here in your list of your visions and goals, what do you or don't you enjoy about your business? I was really surprised by that.
Yeah, I guess it's just more like a reflection question. I mean, what if there's certain things that you don't like doing in your business, and it's just whether you want to continue doing it or not in the next financial year. I think I got a bit distracted because my daughter was was crying. But yeah, it's just more like, what are your strengths within your business, or what is it that you like doing in your business and versus what you don't like doing that you don't want to continue.
And thinking then about how that might impact you in the next financial year.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other question I have, sorry, I'm just going back to your slides here. If you've got any questions, guys, just turn on your cameras and just ask.
Yeah.
I was also going to ask about you said something about superannuation guarantee. What does that mean?
Oh, yes. So super guarantee. So that's more like an accounting term, but it's basically super being paid to the staff.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's I guess an accounting term, making sure that you pay super to your staff.
Okay. Because when you're doing tenders, in one of the questions that they always ask you in Queensland anyway, in the ethical mandate section, they'll talk about have you ever not paid GST to your staff? So that's
yeah.
You won't get a look in if you haven't. You have to. Yeah. I've got another question.
Yeah.
A couple of questions.
Yeah, good.
So what is the best way? So you've got in terms of deductions. So I used to have a sheet. Like I'd have all my because we've always worked from home.
Yeah.
Like our phone bills and stuff.
Yeah.
So I have all the bills. This is all in the olden days. All the bills.
Yeah.
Like a sheet at the front that was a summary of all the bills, and I'd add up the total. And then I'd have personal, 30%.
Yeah.
And then my partner as well. So my business, so Lisa.
Yeah.
30%.
Yeah.
His business was 30%. And then, oh no, that doesn't add up. Whatever it was, I made it up to 100. And then that's the part that we claimed, hey? Does that sound like the right thing to do?
Yes. So as in the 30% of you both have a business? So 30%.
Yeah, we both had separate businesses. Yep. So his business would have 30, my business was 30, personal was 40 or whatever.
Yeah. Whatever the calculation is to 100%. Well, that's right. Yeah. As I said, so you're only claiming the portion that you're using for business use.
Yeah.
So the way to do that, I guess, or to track that is, again, using software, or I don't know if you're really savvy with Excel, but it is easier to use accounting software because you can actually split them from personal to business as well when you're reconciling your accounts.
Yeah. Excellent. Oh, here we go. It's one from Claude. What is the best way to wrangle these babies? Look at that. Like a TikTok of that. Receipts.
So wrangle Oh, look at me like a bit like lost. Like, what does wrangle mean?
What's the best thing I should do for this? What do you think I should be doing instead of stockpiling them?
Oh, instead of putting them in a shoebox.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Where? I don't know where it went.
Oh, in a glove box. There we go. She said in a glove box.
Evan, he's on the road. What should we do? What's your recommendations, Andrea?
Yeah, so I guess it's just putting it all online. That's just probably the best way to do it. So whether it's, again, using a cloud accounting software, I think there's some apps out there that you can put a digital receipt by taking a photo of the receipt, and then it reconciles into your account. I think it's called Receipt Bank, or now known as Dext, D-X-T. Yeah, so generally what happens is you take a photo of the receipt, and then it connects to whichever accounting software you're using, and then it'll split, like, go straight into, say, your expense.
What's it called?
Dext, D-E-X-T. So they're previously known as Receipt Bank.
Debt. Accountants and bookkeepers make better businesses.
Yeah, that's the one. Dext. Yeah. So that's probably the best way.
But does Deadly Digits have a
yes
photo and then upload it straight to Deadly Digits on my phone?
Not Deadly Digits on its own. You have to use Dext, but it does integrate with
Cool.
Deadly Digits. That's probably the best way. Put everything in digital form.
So, here's a question then.
Yeah.
So if I stop paying my subscription, so say my business stops and I stop paying, it's all over, Red Rover.
Yeah.
And I know that I have to keep it for 7 years. Can I download everything off Deadly Digits and store it somewhere for 7 years?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So very good question. So so just to confirm, so you're just asking if you can have access to Deadly Digits even if you stop the subscription?
Yeah.
And the business? Yeah. So just say, for example, you've ever stopped the subscription, you do have access to the data for 7 years.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I have another question.
Yes.
Lots of questions.
Good.
Sure, bring them on.
I find, like, my software, when I'm quoting, like, it's the biggest thing that I hate to do is quoting. So I've spent a lot of time setting up draft quotes so that I don't have to think about it when someone contacts me for a job. Does Deadly Digits have that function where you can save draft quotes and then you just copy them, and then, you know, the client's really impressed because you can send it out really quick? And you know, does it have that function?
Yes, exactly. So we call it estimates in our functionality, but also known as quotes. Once you confirm the quote with the customer, you can convert it straight to an invoice and email it directly to the customer, which is good.
Yeah, I think a lot of, like, new business, I don't know, like when I first started, this was like continuously writing the same things over and over, and I didn't realize that you could just, with your accounting software, like, really just get rid of that process. Like, you know, it's no longer an email. You can go into your whatever software and save it there, like, and
then convert it straight to an invoice once the customer proceeds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that when I first started, and so I find that the most helpful thing in my business, like, all the time. Like, it's never changed. It's very helpful.
And it saves a lot of time as well, as you say. You don't want to keep writing it again, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And being paid sooner too by your customers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
And the invoicing part, because sometimes you're just so desperately tired from doing the job. Oh, now I have to invoice. Like, and then you don't get around to it, and then before you know it, it's the end of the financial year. And I'm terrible. On the dates, so is there a reason why I might not have to do mine by the due date? Like, okay, so it's a leading question. which is basically me saying, so if you go through an accountant, the dates are set, but they're also, you have flexibility if you go through an accountant.
So if you go through, a BAS agent, I think they have a bit of leniency, a little bit. It's only a little bit, not that much longer, I think.
And do you reckon, so from experience,
yeah.
So do you reckon if you, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get my BAS done in time, or you know, it's not going to, I've got to get it right. I've got to get it right. So it takes me longer to do it. And before you know it, the due date is upon me.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is, I've heard, again, don't quote me on this, you need to go and talk to the ATO yourself, put it in and fix it up later.
Yes.
So long as it's not too crazy, like you are better off, as I've learned, don't quote me, ask the ATO, you are better off putting in your BAS with mistakes than you are to not put it in at all and keep, you know, a month goes past, 2 weeks goes past, a month goes past, 2 months goes past. Put the BAS in, fix it up later.
You can always adjust the BAS figures, but I think they're more particular if you're late, or you'll be penalised more if you're late than.
You're penalised more to be late than to do an adjustment.
Yeah.
It's cheaper to do an adjustment, put it in as it is, do an adjustment than you are to put it in late.
Yeah.
Hint, hint. Just let you all. Don't talk to the ATO first.
Yeah.
There's some things I'd say, I think, if this wasn't being recorded. But I don't want to get anybody into trouble. Any other questions? Any questions? Dibby, do you have any questions? Felicity. Felicity is a bookkeeper.
Oh.
Past.
Yeah.
She knows all about bookkeeping.
Ah.
Now a weaver.
Oh.
The opposite ends, right and left brains. Do you have any questions or common things that people have messed up, apart from late?
Or one of them, superannuation, try and lodge your super, I think it's the 22nd of June, to make sure it's in and processed by the ATO before the 30th of June, so you can actually claim it in this year's tax return. The business. If you're worried about getting your BAS in, if you know roughly how much money you're getting in every month, and you work out 1/11 of that and you transfer it straight to the ATO, and so you're actually putting money into that account, into the ATO every month, they're much kinder to you if your BAS lodgement's actually late, because you're actually normally overpaid it if you're working straight on your income, and it gives you that bit of a flush fund surplus to they
technically owe you money then.
Yeah, definitely, and they will then tend to not charge you the late fees or late lodgement fees if you're actually in advance with your BAS money.
Oh.
So
just take 10% of whatever it is you earn, give them that, and you deal with it
later.
later.
Definitely. And we've also found in the past, if you're paying staff, so whatever your payroll cycle is, it's less impact on your cash flow to transfer the PAYG every time you do a pay run. And so that also builds up brownie points with the ATO. So then if you get into a cash flow crisis and you need to negotiate a payment plan, because they can see that you've always regularly paid when you've been able to, they're more inclined to actually give you that payment plan.
Yeah. And one of the best things you can do with the ATO, if you do owe them money, just do a payment plan.
Yeah, and talk to them.
You have to talk to the ATO.
Yeah, and if you're uncomfortable about talking to them, get your accountant to do so.
Yeah. If you talk to them, they will work with you. They're not evil. They're people. The country wants its money, so they would rather you do what you need to do to pay the country the money than to do anything to you. You have to be really, really like, you'd have to not talk to them for years and then be after you for years for them to actually come up after you. And they're not going to put you in jail and, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose one thing I've learned that I was the most resistant to, especially with online accounting programs, was bank feeds, where it automatically downloads, because I was always having to fix up mistakes.
Yeah.
But geez, it speeds up the book. If you are really short time, if you don't have much time, I can highly recommend taking that step, because half the work's already done for you. It's sitting there, and then it's a matter of you just hop on for half an hour every couple of days and you're keeping everything up to date, rather than like me, because I'm always busy doing everyone else's. It comes to the end of the financial year and it's like, oh, I've got like 12 months worth of data entry to do. So yeah, don't, just try and do it weekly.
Debbie's just messaged us saying you're listening to the Zoom, very new. Well, welcome to business, Debbie. We're very excited to have you, and hope I hope some of this is helpful for you in the future. So Claude's just asked about connecting bank feeds. Can we talk a bit about that, Andrea? What is that? What is a bank feed and what does it mean?
Yeah, of course. So that basically means connecting your bank account to the accounting software. So what happens is all the bank transactions will come into the accounting software, or whichever software program you're using. And how it saves time is basically you allocate the transactions or reconcile the transactions as we were talking about previously just then from Debbie. So you can just basically reconcile the transactions.
What does reconcile mean?
Yes, so reconcile is just I guess verifying the transaction. Sorry, I just had a mind blank. Verifying your bank transactions.
So in the olden days, you used to have your paper bank statement and you'd have your paper book, and you'd go, I've got $5.50 here. And then you go, oh, yeah, there's $5.50 according to the bank. And so you would reconcile them and make sure that they were the same. But now what Felicity's raised, bank feeds, so all of that, instead of having a paper bank statement, it all now comes automatically into our software, which is where all of this stuff is. Our invoices and our receipts are all in our, and they all just, and the beauty of it is, so with bank feed these days, the computer, the software can read, literally, I don't have to write any numbers in, it reads the receipt and goes, oh yes, I think that's $4.50 for a cup of tea. That's $4.50. It then goes and finds a similar $4.50 around about the same date on my bank feed. And so the AI, artificial intelligence, does it all for us. So it saves us a lot of time.
But you've always got to check, because it can make, if it has multiple that are similar, you do have to take that time making sure that you're matching them correctly. But it's quicker rather than having to key everything and then do the bank reconciliation manually.
Yeah. Great.
I have a question. Tracking GST. So I think even for us, we're not registered for GST, so it's not part of our everyday practice when you're a nano and a micro business. But how can we better track GST, so when it comes to end of the financial year, we know exactly how much to, if we were only just taking photos of the receipts and the receipt says GST there, how do we better track GST for tax time?
For the whole thing. I think you can, I'm not sure if Felicity can help me with this question, but I think there's GST summary reports that you can generate with the accounting software programs that you use. So you can track on how much GST that you're making for the financial year.
So are you talking about GST on your income, or GST that sit on purchases, like your bills that you're paying?
Okay.
Okay, so until you're registered for GST, you treat your expenses, the whole amount of your expense as an expense. It's not split between GST and a particular expense. Once you're registered for GST, that is when you're keying a transaction, you're making sure that the GST component is coming up, which means that you're making sure that you're using the right tax rate when you're actually keying your bills or you're doing a spend money. So
on this petrol receipt, I'm registered for GST, so I record $60 is the total amount I paid, and the GST amount is $5.45.
That's right. So if you've got,
so that basically so when you're doing GST, you're basically collecting. We small business owners are tax collectors, so we collect GST and we pay GST, and the difference between the collecting and the paying is the bit we either pay forward or give back.
Yes.
Or get
definitely.
back. Yeah,
definitely. And it's also making sure that when you set up your chart of accounts, once you become registered for GST, that the tax rate is changed. So rather than it showing GST free or BAS excluded, it's either GST on expense or if it's a capitalized GST. So it's making sure that your chart of account is set up correctly, and it will change from when you're not registered for GST and when you are registered for GST.
So with my BP receipt here, if I wasn't registered for GST, I'd just write $60.
Yeah.
But because I am registered for GST, I get the $5.45 back.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So in your accounting thing, you would actually enter those two amounts.
No, you would put in. So if you were registered for GST, you would put petrol, select your chart of account, and then there is another column that says tax. And you would say whether it's got GST on expenses or if it's GST free, and then it will calculate it automatically. And that we should be able to look down the bottom of the screen once you've tabbed past that line to see it. And so things like with your insurance, I think it's about 8.5% of your gross insurance bill is stamp duty, which is actually GST free. So when you key your insurance expense, you actually do it in two lines. So the quickest way to do it, to work it out, is you look at how much GST you're actually paying for your insurance, you multiply it by 11, which gives you the gross value including GST. That's one line. And then your second line, you do a stamp duty, you code it to insurance, but then you change your tax code to GST free because it's the stamp duty. So you can always check your bill and then you look at the transaction at the bottom of the screen to make sure the GST figures are the same. So when you're doing, if you go buy a heap of groceries because you're going to do catering for an event, some will be GST free and some will actually have GST depending on what you're purchasing. And so it's easier to just have two separate lines within the transaction, one being the ones that have GST and then the balance that are GST free. And that always makes sure that your GST amount is correct.
So my ICE Vovos attract GST.
Yes.
My ICE Vovos attract GST. If I had apples, they'd be GST free.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm thinking, because it's now nearly 8 o'clock, I'm thinking that we may do a GST episode just on GST so that makes sure that everybody understands what we're talking about. So doesn't matter if you're new, doesn't matter if you're old, been in business for a while, new in business. I think having a GST specific topic will be very, very important. So I'm going to wrap up in a second by I'm going to share my screen. I have put on the in the chat window, I've put the feedback form, and I think in there you can say, Lisa, we need something on GST, please. We'll have a topic on GST. There is Andrea's email address on the screen, so you can grab that, talk to her if you're having any problems with Deadly Digits. Please talk to her straight away, deadlydigits.com.au. So that's obviously the Reckon software. If you haven't yet, Dibby, I don't think I've seen you yet. If you want to join the alumni group, please, it's in the email that I send every week. So you can join the alumni group where we just talk about stuff and send reminders and that sort of thing. And then please leave us some feedback. And don't forget, if you've got a local black coffee, you can go to your local black coffee, go to blackcoffee.net.au. There might be one in your area. There was one to this week. I think, Dibby, you're in Ipswich, so there was one.